Hello, my fellow creatives. Anastasia here with Art Marketing Muse. And today I wanted to have some real talk. I wanted to talk about overwhelm. It's something I found myself struggling with lately, but fellow friends, entrepreneurs, artists, clients, it's a subject that keeps coming up. And so it's been on my mind a lot lately. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about some things you can do to help with overwhelm. Because what's happening is we get overwhelmed and eventually we become paralyzed by it. We get anxiety, quit sleeping, we end up sick, and then we can't do anything. So let's talk about being overwhelmed and what we can do to help with that. I think we start thinking we need to save the world and we can do it all and we can do it all on our own. And the fact of the matter is nobody can, okay? You're not alone here. So let's just talk about that. In my own life, I've noticed a few things recently. Last week, I caught myself almost thinking I had the flu a couple times because I was so tired and I was drained, and I went into my art studio trying to create and I noticed nothing was there. I couldn't create, which rarely happens to me. So I was just totally drained of motivation, inspiration. And I thought, what the hell is going on with me? And then I realized I'm so overwhelmed right now, and I do it to myself. We all do. And then I had to sit and address the issue and say, okay, how do I fix this? Because this isn't sustainable. I can't stay in this mode. To give you a little perspective of what's going on in my life at the moment, I'm wrapping up a commission job, which has taken a lot of time and energy. And then I'm looking at the future and I'm applying for grants and shows and exhibits and art fairs and art residencies. And then in addition, I'm creating marketing materials and I'm creating content, and I'm also planning a wedding. I'm getting married in 6 weeks. So throw in a wedding to that, and throw in trying to be a good friend to a friend who's got some health issues right now. And then don't forget my son, being a mother and making quality time for him. So we get all these balls up in the air and we're trying to juggle all these balls, and we're trying to figure out how not to drop one, and the idea of dropping one causes anxiety. So the first thing I would say do is just take a very small amount of time out for yourself and create a to-do list. Put everything that's on your mind, just mind dump. Just make a giant list of all the stuff you feel like you need to do. And then start marking the things off your list that you don't really need to do. What I mean by that, I put a lot of self-imposed deadlines on myself, and I will freak myself out and then realize that nobody expects that from me except myself. So you can go ahead and pick those balls out of the air and throw them aside. You also want to pick the things that will make you resentful. And what I mean by that, there's many things that we do because we feel like we have to, but in the reality of things, we don't. Skip that networking event tonight, or don't go do those things that you normally do that you end up resenting later, just because you're trying to be nice. If the world's not going to fall apart, if you don't do it, then just mark it off your list. It's okay. With that would be the number one thing. Start marking things off your list. Start getting rid of some of those things. And then another thing is asking for help. So understand that you can't do it all. It's okay that you can't do it all on your own. There's just physically not enough time in the day to get everything done. And it's okay to ask for help. With that, in my own life, I recently started finding myself getting really overwhelmed because I was trying to learn all these new systems and processes with marketing and the web. And that means teaching myself, add that to my already huge list of things to do, and I was completely overwhelmed. And so I decided to get help. I hired a part time virtual assistant. I will tell you, I adore this woman. She has taken things that have been on my to do list and causing me anxiety and stress for up to a year on some of these things and knocked them out in a couple days. She has fast forward through so many things that I was keeping me up at night. There were very simple hacks, but I couldn't find the time because I had too much going on. So get help. Another example, not that you have to pay for help. You can ask for help. It's okay. There's people in your life that can help you. You can just say, I can't do this right now. Can you help me with that? My wedding is a perfect example of this. As I'm being told, have been doing all the wedding planning, and this is pretty traditional for a bride. This is where I state that I wasn't necessarily the one who wanted the wedding. So I caught myself feeling a little bit resentful because I'm doing all the planning. And recently I sent out invites for the reception, and I noticed that there's still this huge pile of invites left. And I got to thinking, wait, I only have addresses for my family and my friends. So add to my list, I need to go track down addresses. And I start perusing Facebook and trying to get in contact with my fiance's friends and family. And then I went, wait a second, why can't he do that? He can do that. So I just asked for help. I said, all my friends and family are coming. I'm going to go have a great time. If you would like your people invited, then I need addresses. I will do that much for you, but I'm going to need you to give me who you want invited. And guess what? He did it. I just had to stop and ask for help. Sometimes we get in this mindset that we can do it all and we don't need help, but asking for help does not make you a failure. It does not make you a loser. It makes you human. It's okay to ask for help. And then the last thing I want to talk about is self-care. So I always think of my energy like a glass of water. I'm this vessel and I only have so much energy. And I'm dumping my energy out all day long in all these different things. So I'm going to put about half over here in motherhood, and then a little bit in my relationship, and then a little bit over here with my friends, and then my business and my marketing and my artwork. And pretty soon I find myself empty. The problem is you never want to get to empty, because by the time you get to empty, you have full-blown anxiety. You might be having panic attacks. You can't think straight. You're not sleeping well because these things are going through your mind. And so you have to do something to refill your cup. And you hopefully will do it before you hit empty. And that's where I've been. I've been this chugging along little gas tank on empty, trying to go off of fumes. And I realize that that's not healthy. I can't do that. So you have to find some ways for self-care. There's so many different things people can do. You have to pick what works for you. One thing I find that works for me is getting into nature. Nature is a big one for me. And I've discovered hiking is huge for me. I remember reading this book, I think it was last year, called The Geography of Genius. And I love this book. It talks about how these major civilizations throughout the world, they created in history major arts and culture and architecture, and these big happenings and these kind of booms throughout the world. And in Greece, when the great philosophers were coming up with all these ideas and philosophy and the ways of thinking, one of the things that was a common thread between all of them is that they were walking. And what I mean by they would be sitting there working out a problem or a thought, a theory, and they would really get stuck in their head. And so they would go walk. And by walking, you're allowing yourself permission to not think so hard about it. And in turn, what happens is your brain starts finding the answers. And this often happens to me when I need fresh air and clarity. And then I say hiking because I'm actually incredibly clumsy and I fall down a lot. So with hiking, it keeps me very present. It keeps me in the moment because I don't have time to think about all this crap bouncing around in my head and how many balls do I have in the air. I can take 30 minutes out of my day. I can take an hour out of my day and go for a hike in nature. And I like hiking because I have to plan where my next step is going to be so I don't fall down. That's huge. And what happens many times is because I'm not forcing thoughts, I'm not forcing ideas, I start to get clarity. And this I'm sort of just opening myself up and letting the energy flow back in and letting ideas flow back in without trying to judge them and mold them into something. So nature and hiking is a big one for me. For some people, it might be the spa or massages or a drink out with the girls or whatever the case may be, but find ways to fill yourself back up. Not everybody has the luxury of time or money. I know when I was a new mom and my son was a baby, I was a single mom and I didn't have help. I was really struggling. And what I found was that if I would take him on a walk, I would put him in a stroller and we would go on inspiration hunts. And so as a toddler, we would spend an hour just walking around our neighborhood looking for cool rocks or pretty leaves or butterflies, Legos, marbles, coins, whatever. And we would collect these things like little treasures and then we'd put them in a jar. And now I have this whole line of jar of things my son and I have found together on inspiration hunts. But what it did was it turned my mind off and it put me in the moment. And it helped me to find some clarity and to turn off all the noise in my head and just be present. And so those are the things you need to figure out for yourself. Try some different things. If you have some things that work for you, please share it in the blog. I would love to hear it. I know other people would love to hear it. I'd love to know what works for you. So to kind of summarize, if you're starting to feel yourself a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit tired, right before you hit that anxiety mode, which so many of us get into, and then we're not worth a shit, stop and start marking things off your list that just don't need to happen, that we've managed to throw on there and stress ourselves off because it's this huge list. Ask for help, whether it's hiring somebody or just asking for somebody to kick in a little bit and delegate some tasks. Ask for help. And then self-care. Find something that fills your vessel back up so that you don't hit that empty, so you're not chugging along on fumes trying to go the extra mile. You just can't do it. So that's my talk this week. I'm going to go work on some overwhelm moments. I just got back from a hike, and that's sort of where this clarity hit me about this particular video. So please share with me in the comments and have a great week. Keep creating. Talk to you guys later.